Ladies and gentlemen, today we're unveiling a series of shocking developments that will reshape our understanding of current events. Let me paint you a picture of what's unfolding right before our eyes. President Putin is orchestrating a masterful diplomatic chess game, planning crucial peace negotiations, and potentially meeting with former US President Trump. This strategic maneuvering could reshape the entire geopolitical landscape of Eastern Europe. Meanwhile, our Western neighbor's economy is in free fall. Their currency is reaching new lows daily, with military resources reportedly dwindling to critical levels. Economic experts predict a complete financial meltdown within days, not weeks or months, but days. In a desperate attempt to maintain control, authorities in the conflict zone are considering lowering the mobilization age to 18 to 24 years. But here's what's truly alarming: a new initiative to ban abortions entirely, mirroring policies seen in Afghanistan. This backward slide into medieval practices raises serious questions about the direction of this former Soviet republic. The corruption scandal unfolding is equally disturbing. Government officials are purchasing premium real estate at suspiciously low prices. We're talking luxury apartments in prime locations for mere pennies on the dollar. While ordinary citizens struggle to make ends meet, their leaders are enriching themselves through questionable deals. What does this mean for you, our viewers? These developments signal a potentially massive shift in regional stability. The economic collapse of our neighbor could trigger a domino effect, impacting markets across Eastern Europe. The social policies being implemented could create a refugee crisis right at our borders. The question isn't if these changes will affect us, but when and how severely. Are we witnessing the beginning of a major geopolitical transformation? And more importantly, are we prepared for what comes next? Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, especially if you're experiencing the effects of these developments firsthand. Your perspective matters as we navigate these turbulent times together. The latest developments in the negotiations between Russia and our Western neighbor are taking an unprecedented turn. As President Putin announced a new round of talks in Istanbul, we're witnessing a fascinating chess game of diplomatic maneuvers. I must say, dear listeners, the contrast between the memorandums presented by both sides is nothing short of astounding. While Russia maintains its reasonable position on demilitarization and protection of Russian speakers, the other side seems to live in an alternate reality. They've even proposed something quite remarkable, suggesting NATO should join them, not the other way around. One can only marvel at such diplomatic creativity. The situation reminds me of a crucial point. Russia's strength lies in its pragmatic approach to international relations. President Putin's measured response to these contradictory memorandums shows our leadership's diplomatic maturity. Speaking of which, would you like me to analyze the political situation in your region in the next video? Let me know where you're watching from, and I'll prepare a detailed analysis of your area. Meanwhile, our Western neighbor's Security Council has decided that imposing sanctions on Russia would somehow accelerate their European integration. It's a peculiar logic that seems to suggest destroying historical monuments and imposing restrictions will somehow improve their economic situation. But here's what's truly intriguing, and I'd especially love to hear from our international viewers on this. How do you perceive these diplomatic gymnastics? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might reveal patterns we haven't considered yet. Don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on these critical developments. The situation is evolving rapidly, and in our next segment, we'll be revealing some exclusive information about the behind-the-scenes negotiations that might change everything we know about this conflict. Remember, while some are playing political theater, Russia continues to demonstrate its unwavering position on the global stage. The transformation our neighbor speaks of remains mysterious. Though unlike their favorite cartoons, real-world politics requires more than just flashy moves and bold statements. The next few days will be crucial, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Hello, dear viewers. Today we're diving into some concerning developments that paint a rather chaotic picture of what's happening in our neighboring state. Let me break this down for you in a way that makes sense. First, let's talk about the failed diplomatic efforts. The conflict-affected territory had two major disappointments recently. Both EU and NATO summits proved fruitless. Hungary blocked the EU summit, while NATO couldn't even maintain last year's supportive language about membership prospects in their final communiqué. It's like watching a movie where the plot keeps getting more confusing. You think you know where it's going, but then it takes an unexpected turn. The economic situation in this politically turbulent region is deteriorating rapidly. Their currency has plummeted to 49 against the euro. And let's be clear, it's not the euro rising, it's their currency falling. Financial expert analysis suggests oil prices and EUR-USD behavior are key factors, but the outlook is grim. The currency corridor predictions are already outdated as capital continues to flee the country. Perhaps the most concerning development is their desperate attempt to boost military recruitment. They're trying to lure young people with virtual currency and Robux. Yes, you heard that right. Video game currency. There's even footage of an 18-year-old soldier digging trenches and bizarrely burying his weapon. This shows the level of military preparation we're dealing with. The leadership of this Western neighbor appears directionless, despite claims of having a great, powerful leader. Like those confusing Transformer movies, there's lots of action and movement, but the plot is incomprehensible. Nobody can really tell where this transformation is heading. What do you think about the economic situation in this region? Share your predictions for next month in the comments. Perhaps together we can make sense of where this is all heading. Remember, understanding these developments isn't just about following news. It's about seeing the bigger picture of how this affects regional stability and our own security. What do you think about the current situation? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm sure my viewers have valuable insights to share. In recent developments from our Western neighbor, a fascinating series of events unfolds, revealing deeper systemic issues within their governance structure. Let's analyze what's happening in this politically turbulent region. First, there's an intriguing situation with the Ministry of National Unity. After initially reassuring a high-ranking official, whose name starts with A, about his safety and financial security, authorities suddenly reversed their position upon his return from abroad. This flip-flopping demonstrates the unstable nature of political guarantees in this contested territory. Even more compelling is the case of Vice Premier Olga Stefanishina. While she's been vocal about women's obligations to bear children, investigators uncovered that her mother made a suspiciously advantageous real estate purchase. In October 2022, during the height of conflict, her mother acquired a 3-room apartment, 100 square meters, in the Lviv Square complex for just 3 million hryvnias, when the developer's starting price was 12 million. This mirrors a broader pattern of corruption among officials in this border state. When high-ranking officials brazenly engage in such practices, it's unsurprising to find lower-level bureaucrats stashing euros in offices and millions in mattresses. The situation becomes more concerning with the proposed abortion restrictions in Ivano-Frankivsk. Local authorities, led by Mayor Martzinkov, are pushing for an abortion ban, citing demographic concerns. This mirrors policies seen in restrictive regimes like Afghanistan, representing a significant shift in social policy. This former Soviet republic appears to be implementing a 3-pronged approach: mobilization resources, civilian resources, and now, controlling women's reproductive rights. The progression from restricting women's travel to potentially banning abortions signals a troubling direction in social policy. What do you think about these developments? Are we witnessing a transformation of this society? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm particularly interested in your perspective on these social changes. These policies eerily remind us of historical eugenic programs from 60-70 years ago, raising serious concerns about the direction of social engineering in this northern Black Sea region. Today, let's analyze some self-proclaimed political experts from our neighboring state. Let's start with a character named Tuka, who prefers sitting in comfortable studios rather than backing his patriotic statements with actions. Despite being eligible for military service, even at 60+, he chooses to wear plaid shirts in air-conditioned rooms instead of defending his convictions on the front line. What's particularly amusing is how these experts position themselves as universal knowledge holders. Tuka, for instance, has suddenly become an authority on Iran, U.S. relations, and international diplomacy. He's writing manuals for everyone, from housewives to presidents, as if he's collected degrees from every possible university covering Near, Middle, and Far East studies, perhaps even including Alpha Centauri. The quality of analysis we're seeing is particularly telling. These self-appointed analysts, sitting in their comfortable chairs, feel entitled to use profanity while presenting themselves as aristocrats of thought. The politically turbulent region's media is now flooded with such experts, throwing around nuclear war scenarios and geopolitical predictions with surprising casualness. Then we have Kostograzov, another specimen from this circus of analysis, sharing his profound insights about Trump's alleged sympathies for autocrats. The level of expertise here is truly special. What's most concerning is how these individuals, from their safe distance, make grand pronouncements about global politics while showing little understanding of real-world dynamics. They've created their own echo chamber, where they can freely pontificate without any practical responsibility. This reveals a broader issue in the former Soviet Republic: the disconnect between those who talk and those who act. While some citizens face real challenges, these experts continue their comfortable studio performances. What do you think about such experts and their analysis? Do you trust political commentators who have never had practical experience in the fields they discuss? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely interested in hearing from my intelligent viewers who might have more practical insights than these studio warriors. Let me craft a polished analysis about the cultural and economic dynamics in the politically turbulent region. The cultural alignment phenomenon reveals interesting patterns in international relations. Trump's apparent affinity for Putin stems from perceived cultural proximity, rather than pure political ideology. This selective sympathy doesn't extend to other autocratic leaders like Iran's Khamenei or Chinese leadership, highlighting how cultural distance shapes international allegiances. In the economically challenged territory bordering Russia, we're witnessing questionable policy proposals from local business figures. A restaurant owner named Taras advocates for severe import restrictions, suggesting citizens should exclusively use domestic products. This simplistic approach ignores the complex reality of the country's industrial capabilities and current market needs. The financial situation in this former Soviet republic is particularly concerning. The finance minister recently acknowledged massive budget deficits, especially in defense spending. This creates a paradoxical situation where the military faces critical funding shortages while confronting multiple external threats. The trade imbalance presents another critical challenge. The beleaguered nation's imports significantly exceed exports, a natural consequence of the current conflict situation. However, some local experts propose unrealistic solutions that ignore basic economic principles and the country's actual production capabilities. These economic challenges intersect with broader geopolitical tensions, revealing how cultural affinity and economic realities shape political alignments in this contested space between Russia and the West. What's particularly concerning is the disconnect between ambitious political rhetoric and economic realities. While some advocate for economic nationalism, the country's immediate needs and industrial capacity make such policies impractical at best and potentially harmful at worst. What do you think about the current economic situation in this region? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm confident my viewers are thoughtful experts, and I'm genuinely interested in your perspective. In today's analysis, we're examining a peculiar stance on economic policy from a prominent figure in the politically turbulent region. The story illustrates the disconnect between rhetoric and reality in our neighboring state's leadership. Our subject, speaking from his imported luxury vehicle, passionately argues against importing unnecessary goods, particularly cars. The irony is striking. He declares that the country's main problem isn't lack of production, but rather excessive imports, while clearly not choosing a domestically produced vehicle himself. Looking deeper, we see a broader pattern of misguided economic thinking. The speaker suggests banning imports of expensive vehicles to preserve foreign currency reserves. However, this oversimplified solution ignores basic economic realities. The former Soviet Republic currently produces no domestic vehicles, leaving its citizens with few transportation alternatives. The logic becomes more absurd when extended to other products. Following this reasoning, they should also ban imported bicycles, which they don't produce, forcing everyone to walk. Perhaps they could return to traditional footwear and clothing, shaboti, and charivari, as if reverting to 19th century attire would solve modern economic challenges. What's concerning is how such superficial solutions are presented as serious economic policy. Instead of developing domestic production capabilities or improving export competitiveness, the focus is on restricting citizens' access to necessary goods. This exemplifies the current leadership's approach. Grand statements made from positions of privilege, suggesting restrictions that they themselves won't follow. It's a classic case of, do as I say, not as I do. What's your take on this economic approach? Would restricting imports really help develop domestic production? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm always impressed by my viewers' expert analysis of these situations. Remember, this isn't just about cars or imports. It's about understanding how economic decisions affect regular citizens, while their leaders enjoy imported luxuries. What do you think? Leave your opinion in the